Investing in events. Are you looking at attending an event maybe for your industry, maybe for speaking, for creating books, or for some sort of skill that you want to develop? Maybe your industry has a annual conference that you're looking at attending, and if you want to maximize your event experience, or if you're new to attending events and you just want to know what kind of to expect, or you've been doing it for many years, then this video is for you. I titled it, "Before you invest in your next event, watch this first," because I'm going to be sharing with you some major takeaways, some lessons, some practices that I've been following for attending events, marketing events, business events, ministry events for the last 9 years or so that I've been a professional speaker, and some of the lessons that I have taken away. Recently, I just got back from a best-selling book conference over in the Dallas, Texas area. And this was a powerful event. I mean, there's something amazing about putting yourself in an environment of people who are all going in the similar or same direction that you are. And in this case, becoming a best-selling author. And it was the training that was provided through this organization, Life on Fire, that helped our new book, I Want a Mentor, Now What Do I Do?, available on Amazon now, to become the #1 best-selling book in the category of business consulting in Amazon. That's not business consulting for cat owners. That is like business consulting for in all of Amazon, #1 best-selling book. So that's pretty exciting. This system works. And I know that had I not joined that program, then it would have been much more difficult. I even tried doing it on my own. Didn't really work out very well until I got a best-selling book mentor who showed me the ropes and helped me to compress decades of his experience into days. That was James Malinchuk. So, attending events, if this is something that you're interested in doing, there's a lot of amazing events out there for almost everything imaginable that you can think of. Whatever the niche or interests, or especially if you're a speaker, if you're an author, if you're a course creator, there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs to meet other people who are in their field. These are where you can find some of the best strategic partners that you can speak on some of their platforms. I just got off of a show called Create Your Influence with a friend who I met at the event, and she invited me to speak, and she just went through and she's like, "This was amazing. Thank you so much." So that interview is going on our YouTube channel here shortly, but you have opportunities like that. So I'm going to share one of the biggest tips. It's the biggest mistake that people make when attending events, but also one of the biggest tips if you do the flip side. One of the biggest mistakes event attendees make is that they go there thinking, what can I get from the event? Instead of thinking, what can I give at this event? And people attend coming like, how can I be served? What will serve me most? What can I get? Instead of, how can I serve? Who can I serve? And what problems can I solve here? That's what's so beautiful about entrepreneurs. Why I love helping entrepreneurs is because an entrepreneur is one who finds and solves a valuable problem. So when you're going to these events, you want to look for like, what are the problems that are here in this event? There was my coach, James Malinchuk, he gave this awesome analogy where a lot of times people, they have this bib, and they're wearing a bib and they're just like waiting, sitting there like at a restaurant, just waiting for you to come to them and serve them. But what he says is take the bib off, put the white napkin around your arm, and then you lead with the napkin. And when he says lead with the napkin, come as one who's serving others. And when you come as a servant, this changes everything for you. You will find doors that will open that otherwise would be shut because you took off your bib and you led with the napkin. It makes a big difference. And what this looks like practically is while I'm at this event, I'm thinking, okay, what are the problems that exist in this event? What are the problems that people are looking to solve here at this event? There's one thing that you can just automatically know, that if someone is attending, what they're interested in. It's just by the title of the conference many times. So I'll give an example for what I did, and you can apply it for whatever event you're thinking about attending. This was Bestseller on Fire workshop. So what is the dream everyone in the room wants to do? They want to become a #1 best-selling author. In like manner, they're looking for reviews. They want reviews on their books. They want people to watch and buy and order and take a look. And there's a culture which is pretty cool of people who would like to review each other's books. They're like, hey, we're all in the same area and I want to see what you're doing. I was fascinated by the kind of things that people were doing. Like, it was so cool. As I talked to people in the hallways, I found some people are helping others overcome type 2 diabetes, which, like, I was borderline diabetic when I was 12, had a heart attack when I was 12, and 210 pounds. It was intense. So, like, I resonate with that book. And there was a guy who had appendicitis, and he was helping people to overcome their appendicitis and understanding the science of that. And I'm like, that is so needed, so helpful. There was like 4 people who are helping people who are struggling with addictions of different kinds. Maybe intervention was one of the books, and they're just helping people to overcome these bad habits. I'm like, wow, I've been addicted to things and needed interventions to overcome. I'm like, that is so cool. And I'm just listening, like, people are about having better marriages. People are, I mean, the topics that people have are so mission driven, so servant oriented, that people have these solutions. One lady who I wrote a review for, is she was helping people, mothers who are struggling to have children, to be able to experience what she called the miracle of motherhood. I'm like, wow, that just sounds so nice. Could you imagine someone who've like dedicated their business, their life, or just solving that problem of infertility, and how many families I could bless and transform? That is so meaningful, to be able to have children, or go from you're not able to have children to being able to have children that can bless the home. So there's so many cool mission-driven messengers that were here at this event. So what I did is I saw these are the problems that they have. And when they shared ahas, they're like, they gave times like, who here has an aha? And they'd run around with mic runners. There was hundreds of best-selling authors here and authors, and they would give the microphone over. And I'm like, raise my hand. And I shared one of my ahas here was, and I stood up and faced the audience. I was sitting in the front. It's like, one of my ahas was that to lead with the napkin instead of the bib. And what I want to do is I am going to make it my goal, my commitment, to review 100 of your books. I want to review 100 books that you guys have, and I would love to support you in your author's journey. So if you have a book, please come up to me, and I would love to be one of your first person to review, or your next person. So just come up to me in between the meetings, and I would be happy to review for you. And that was a game changer, I'll tell you what, because I had people who were coming up. It was just like a 30-second aha, but people were coming up to me in the hallways, that there was literally lines of people. And what's really cool about that, instantly, they already, even though I may not know them, they have this perception that they're like, oh, I know you. It's like, I really love what you said. Something you said resonated tremendously. It was so powerful. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So we already start our conversation off on a really good foot. Number 2, they instantly want to exchange contact information, which is what every person who wants to network, to expand, meet new people, and serve others, like, of course we want to exchange contacts. So that's what people are coming for. And because I'm leading with that service, they instantly want to help me too. So they ask, what's your book about? And I tell them, I want a mentor. Now what do? I teach authors, speakers, coaches, and other high-level entrepreneurs how they can find the mentors, and they can maximize their mentorship relationships, like this event, like any course or book they read or coaching program, and how they can master any skill in half the time that's relating to their life or business. And people are like, wow, that's incredible. And then they start looking it up. I literally had people that night leaving reviews on my book, and they're like, I just found out about Enoch and his content. I can't put it down. I'm so excited to dig into these principles. Like, this is so profound and well put together. And people were all excited. And I'm like going to sleep, and I'm waking up, and there's like way more reviews than when I went to sleep. Like, how cool is that? But that's just because I took the mic. I took the moment of opportunity to speak, and I led with service. Where on the contrast, I found that a lot of times during the ahas, or when people had opportunities, they would go up there and they're like, hi, my name is John Smith, and I wrote the book blank, 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 and I'm a best-selling author, and I'm also a host over here. And then, like, I remember James like, okay, it's like, this isn't a commercial, just share your ahas. and people would take like 30, 40, like he gives 30 seconds to share an aha, and people would take like 45 seconds going on about all their accolades or who they are, what they do in their business, and how they serve people, and they're like using it as a promotional time. And James like interrupts him, is like, look, this isn't a time to promote your business, this is time to share your ahas. And then people are like, okay, hold on, and then they go on. I'm like, that is, like, to me, I'm like, that is so distasteful and disrespectful. That is not the place that you want to like, you can kind of indirectly say a little bit of what you do, but I mean, just the length. And I'm telling you, it didn't happen just once or twice. It happened several times, unfortunately. But when I got the microphone, I wanted to make sure, one, I did want to let people know some of the things that I'm doing, but I wanted to do it in a way that would make the host of the event look good, and it would be a blessing to them, as well as be a blessing to the people who are serving. So who are attending, the hundreds of authors and entrepreneurs. So I'm thinking, what could I do? I have a testimonial where every coach or speaker or course creator wants to have testimonials. One of the best ways that you can like get in with influential leaders or speakers at events is to buy their stuff and be one of their best testimonies, be one of their greatest success stories, and they will greatly appreciate that. They will remember you for that. So when I got the microphone, one of the things I shared, I said, oh, by the way, because of James Malinchuk's and Nick Unsworth's help, I was able to get to #1 best-selling author in business consulting. And then the whole crowd just started cheering. They're like, yeah! They're like, they were so excited, because what's everybody there for? To become a best-selling author. So instantly, not only did that help them and their program look really, really good, because it helped their students to get results that they all were in the room dreaming of, but it also helped to position me as a place of like, I have the results that pretty much everyone in the audience wants. So now when people are introducing themselves or coming up to me in the hallways, they're instantly like, hey, this young man is a best-selling author. He understands the path that I want to go. So now I'm positioned as like a trusted advisor, or someone who could aid them. And so when I tell them about my book, they're like, this is exciting, a book on mentorship. This is what we all need. This is what we all want. And it's for authors, coaches, and speakers. Like, you're in the perfect room for the perfect people that you're called to serve. And I'm like, yes, I love it here. But I want to show you the difference between leading with a bib, where like, this is what I do and this is how you can serve me, to what can I do? How can I serve you? And leading with the napkin. And so with that, it made a big difference, where that's one thing that I have done. And Jesus said in Matthew 23:11, why does this work? It's a biblical principle. Jesus said, if you want to be the greatest in your field, if you want to be the greatest networker at an event, if you want to be the greatest connector, if you want to be the greatest of anything in any field, Jesus says, here's a secret, Matthew 23:11, but he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. So the key to greatness, the path to greatness, is through the service of many. I really like how Zig Ziglar once said, you can get anything that you want in life if you help enough people to get what they want in life. So that service is so profound, so powerful, solving other people's problems. So how does this relate to you? You want to ask yourself, what is the problem of this event? What are the problems that people are not solving, or what is the dream that this event has? And when I say event, it might be a virtual or in-person event. I went to Texas in person, but virtual, there's summits, there's challenges, there's members areas, a lot of online challenges let you join a Facebook group and you can interact and talk with those people. Think about what are the problems that people have and go seek to add value and serve, because when you do that, you'll be positioned as very great in their eyes, where you're the go-to person in your field, that people naturally want to help you. People were so overwhelmed with gratitude that I was going to review their book that they're like, I'm going to review your book right now. And I'm like, that is so cool. I didn't even ask anyone to review my book, and I got a bunch of book reviews. So
Amen.
That's the power of leading with a napkin. Now there's another thing that's great about that is, personally, I am naturally introverted. So me going up and talking to a complete stranger in the hallway is does not come naturally or easily for me. It's kind of difficult. So what's really cool is, as someone who's naturally introverted, I found ways to be able to leverage that as a strength rather than to work smarter, that's more in line with like who I am, than to work harder and gruesome and doing the disagreeable duties the hard way. So by me taking the microphone and leading with value and say, hey, if you want this, which is irresistible offer, I'm going to review 100 people, then come to me. So I'm saying like, I'm going to help you, but you come to me. You see what's going on? So I literally had people in the hallways making lines, like 2 to 3 people out, just taking turns coming to talk with me. It's like, for me, I love people, and that's great. But if I had to go wait in line to 2 to 3 people to go talk to them, or if I had to go from one person after another, which I did that, but it was so much easier when they introduce themselves with a big old smile, super excited because they know I'm here from a place of service. Is that making sense? Mm-hmm. Write yes in the chat if that makes sense to you, because they're so powerful. But Proverbs 18:24, it expands on this principle. It says, a man that hath friends must show himself what? Friendly. And there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. So and if we want to have friends, then we got to be friendly. And people like to do business with their friends, or people who they feel that they know, like, and trust. So if you want more, you want to attract students, you want to attract clients or customers or people that you could serve, then be friendly. And that makes a big difference. There's a third thing that I did that I believe could help you is, years ago, I made a commitment. I realized that there is a lot of impact when you hold the microphone and you're able to speak to multitudes. So I made a commitment with myself that whenever there's an opportunity in a room, in a new environment, or maybe if I'm on a coaching call, or maybe I'm on a challenge, or maybe I'm at a seminar, or whenever there's an opportunity where I could raise my hand and like share an aha, or give a test, introduce who I am, or ask a question, whatever. Like sometimes you're at events and they're like, hey, stand in line to get your question answered. We're only going to do a few. Like I just stand up and I beeline over there without, like, if there's an opportunity, I don't think, do I have a question? I don't think like, what would I ask? I don't think like, that should I go or should I not go? The answer is always yes. If there's an aha, my hand's up, one of the first ones. And what I do is I say yes and then figure out what I'm going to say afterwards. Now that sounds a little backwards to a lot of people, but I'm telling you, this one commitment has opened up massive opportunities for me that are incredible. What I realized is, like there was this time I was over at a mastermind I paid $19,000 to be a part of this event. And there was David Shantz, has a podcast, David Never Sleeps. He has hundreds of thousands of people who watch his videos, and he was doing a question and answer, and he said, hey, anyone could ask a question. I'm like, all right, raise my hand, or I walk over there, and I was literally standing in line about to go to speak before 100,000 people or more, and I had no idea what I was going to ask, but I'm like, I know I have questions. Like, how many of you know that you're at home, you're working on your business, you're trying to grow something, solve a problem, you're like, I don't even know how to do this. If only there's someone who could help me, show me the way. If only like I had the steps. Or you're thinking there are times where you're like, I just feel stuck, but you don't know how to move forward. So it's like, yeah, but then when you're faced with an opportunity to ask your questions, people are like, I don't have any questions. When really they're just freaked out about the fact that there's going to be an audience. And they're like, what if I say the wrong thing? I don't ask any of those things. I'm just like, I'm sitting there, waiting in line. I'm like the next person to go ask. I'm like, what am I going to say? I know, what were some of those questions that I had? What's going on? I'm like, oh, strategic partners. Getting, using other people's platforms to be able to speak and share, which is what I was happening to be doing on the podcast. And so I asked my question and got a very helpful response. And then from there's several people who watch his show, who I know, who reach back. They're like, hey, when were you on David Chan's podcast? Like, what's going on here? That's your voice. That's your question. Like, I recognize you. Why are you here? And it's just because I said yes. I said yes before I knew what I was going to say. And there's a verse in Mark 13:11 that I really like, and it inspires me. You might ask, like, Enoch, why would you do that? Well, because of this verse. Jesus said, "But when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what ye shall speak, neither do ye premeditate. But whatsoever shall be given you in that hour, that speak ye. For it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Ghost." Amen. So I realize that when I speak, I'm a representative of Christ. I'm a representative of my Creator. And I have an opportunity to share the value, to solve problems, to serve, to help others when I have that opportunity to share an aha, or to make an introduction or ask a question. So I just decided I'm going to say yes. If there's an opportunity, the answer is always yes, and I'm going to figure out what to say. I'm going to not premeditate what I'm going to say. God's going to give me the words at that moment.
Amen.
And He has every single time. Even to the times where I have the microphone and they're like, "What's your question?" And I go, and then something comes out. Sometimes you got to open your mouth, and God gives you at that moment. But He never fails. So that's something I would challenge you. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's good. Because a good mentor is going to give you counterintuitive advice in what you're already doing. Because if it made sense to you, you'd already be doing it, right? I'll tell you another example, another great thing that happened from this. One time, again, I was at a mastermind, and I met this barber who was making $300,000 a year with his barbershop. And I was talking to him, I was introducing myself, getting to know people. I said, "Hey, my name is Enoch." He's like, "Yes, I know. Almost everyone here knows who you are." And I was like, "What? What does that mean?" And at first I was a little uncertain, because that was the first time I've ever been here. I'm in a room full of like extremely successful people, and I'm like a small fish in a big pond, so to speak. And I'm just thinking, and I asked him, like, "When you say that, what do you mean by that?" He's like, "Well, you're always in the weekly coaching calls asking great questions, and people hear your questions. They're beneficial. I remember a lot of your questions you asked. It's good stuff." And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." And you know, while I was at that event, I heard a comment like that like 3 or 4 times, that people remember, "Oh, you're the guy who asks really great questions." I'm like, that's an interesting reputation to have. But I tell you, that is only because when there's opportunity to ask a question, I raise my hand on Zoom. I'm like, I got my hand raised. I don't even know what I'm going to say many times, but I'm like, I'm going to ask those questions, because I know I got problems like when I'm working, but now when I have opportunity to get the questions answered, now they all disappear. That don't make sense. So I'm gonna raise my hand, and God's gonna give me those questions to ask. So it makes a big difference. There's another time I was on a coaching call with one of my mentors, and there's a group of people, and I asked him, like, "Hey, what do you think about doing this book? Expert Secrets is really powerful, by Russell Brunson. And in this book, it teaches you how to develop as an author, coach, speaker. It's just showing you the expert path and how you could get paid for your advice. And it's really powerful. I know a lot of people are familiar with this book. It sold hundreds of thousands of copies. But a lot of people will read it, and then they don't implement. And they don't know how to do that. So I was thinking, what if I did an event where I just taught people how to implement the principles in Expert Secrets? Instead of taking 3 years to do it, they could get it done in 3 days. And the coach was like, that is solid. It reminds me of something that Joe Bauer did, who's another marketer. He did something similar. He's like, that is great. I'm excited to see you do that. Awesome. And then just because I asked the question, I had some people, fellow students in the room, that were like, sign me up for that event. I'm really interested in that. And it's not a cheap event. But they're like, I need that. So they're coming over to do an implementation workshop with us, and they're going to be doing it. They're going to be here in a couple weeks. So I'm like, that is really powerful. Just by opening your mouth can turn into thousands of dollars of business opportunity to be able to serve other people. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So my challenge to you is to say yes when you have opportunity to speak, even before you know what to say. Why? Because the person with the microphone makes the most money, and visibility is profitability. When you speak up, that's how you're able to serve and impact the people that you're called to serve. It makes a huge difference. Another major takeaway that I got from the event, and just events in general is so powerful, is that when I was there, it was so awesome to see the hunger, the drive, the people with the dreams, and who are solving these problems that they're so passionate about, enough that they're going to write a book and then pour out their expertise on, and they're just thrilled about the process. And there's so much power when you see, they were saying, like there was one time where they said, stand up if you were able to write your book through our program. And you see like a large portion of people stand, they were standing up, they're like, all right. And then there's a portion where they're like, how many of those are bestsellers? And there was a lot few. And I realized, I'm like, oh, like those of us who are bestsellers are actually very, very few in this room. But that's what everybody wants. But I realized that everybody wanted to be a bestseller. So even just that common shared goal is exciting, and we feed off each other, we encourage each other. So again, what I saw in like just deeply embedded there was to put yourself in an environment that normalizes the achievement you desire to make. In my book, I Want to Mentor, Now What Do I Do? I talk about this concept where you want to place yourself in environments that normalize the achievement you want to make, because when you're outside of the book, say, let's say bestseller, you want to be a best-selling author, and that seems like that's such a faraway goal. Like, I don't know if that's really possible. It's possible for people. I don't know if it's possible for me. But when you step into a room where there's hundreds of authors or aspiring authors or best-selling authors, and they're all doing this thing that for you is just a dream, but they're like, yep, I've done it. I had lunch with a lady who she wrote, it was like 42 books, and she sold over 50 million copies of her books. And I'm like, that's amazing. And I was able to share with her what it's like to be a self-publishing author, because she was scared, she was uncertain. She's like, well, the publisher did a lot of that stuff, but it's so cool. She was able to inspire me, I'm able to inspire her, and we went out to lunch together. But my point is, when you see person after person after person after person, you see all their backgrounds, you're like, okay, if they could do it, why can't I? If they could do it, so could I. And it inspires belief. It inspires faith to be able to move mountains, to turn mountains of difficulty into molehills. When you put yourself in that environment that normalizes the success, the achievement you desire to reach. So do that and it'll change your life. That's one of the benefits of attending events. So what does that mean for you? Go find some events that you could attend and be a part of, to surround yourself, put yourself in that environment. In my book, I Want to Mentor, Now What Do I Do? I talk a lot about your environments, your associations, how to find those environments, those events, those mentors of people, the communities that will help you to thrive. If that's something you're interested in, just go to iwantamentorbook.com, and you can get access to the first 3 chapters for free, and that's there for you to check out. And it reminds me of the verse, Proverbs 13:20, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed. So there's something powerful that when you're with the wise people, or the people that understand what you want to understand, or experience what you want to experience, they influence you. It's a law of association. You're an average of the top 5 voices that you spend the most time with, which leads me to the next big concept. So powerful. I saw this deeply. I saw this principle really deep in the event. And it's a concept that I teach in my book that's called the 6 degrees of separation. And in this 6 degrees, the concept is basically that you are within 6 degrees of association. Let's say I have a friend, that's 1 degree, who has a friend, that's a 2nd degree, who has another friend, that's 3rd degree. So within 6 degrees, you basically have access to anyone and everyone on the planet that you would like to meet or know or do business with or find, or whatever the case is. It's really powerful. I'll give you an example. So while I was at the event, there was a young lady who traveled all the way from, I believe it was Indonesia. She traveled 30 hours on the plane just to show up to this event. And she wanted to meet Jack Canfield, the owner of Chicken Soup for the Soul, a billion-dollar book brand. And he was there training us how we can sell, how shared his story about selling $1 billion of books, over 600 million copies sold, and the lessons he learned and the principles that we can apply as we're getting started on this best-selling book journey. And it was really powerful, really awesome to learn from someone who's really been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and they're creating seminars about it, you know what I mean? But this lady, she was on fire. She's so excited. She's like, this book changed my life. And I had a dream to meet Jack Canfield, but I had no idea how I was going to do it. He's in America. I'm in Indonesia. Since when am I going to have an opportunity? But she put herself in the path of blessing, where she took the plunge, took the flight, came over to the event, and she showed up. And she didn't know if she's going to be able to meet Jack Canfield, but they asked, like, who here took the longest travel in getting here? And there was like all these people from like New Zealand, or there's people from Europe or London or New York or Canada. All these people are from international, and they're saying that they're the furthest. But she was like everyone voted, and they're like, nah, she was the furthest. She flew 30 hours. Like that's dedication. But because she was the furthest away, she got a gift. And they were going to give her something, maybe books or photo, I don't know. But she's like, she really wanted to meet Jack Canfield, and she did what most entrepreneurs are terrified to do, and she asked for what she wanted. And that's where James says, this is one of the biggest lessons I learned from my mother, the answer is no if you don't ask. James says, you have not because you ask not. She said, well, instead of giving me that gift, would you be willing to gift me with the opportunity to meet Jack Canfield, to take a photo with him, shake his hand? And they're like, yeah, we could do that, because he was doing that for some of the event. Can you imagine? 30 hours coming on a dream. And she got to meet the guy who really impacted her life in a very profound way. She was ecstatic. She was so happy. She was like, this made it all worth it. But it would have never happened if she was sitting in Indonesia like, nah, I don't want to go to that event. It's so far away. I mean, we see people who are like coming 2 states away to attend an event, and they're like, oh, that's too far. But she's like 30 hours and the whole ocean in between and multiple like countries. She's like, there is no distance too far to accomplish my dream. So you just got to ask yourself, when you're thinking about, should I attend like maybe an implementation workshop? Should I attend in a seminar? It's like, is it worth it? Just remember my friend, her name is Ritska. You know, she was very inspiring, and you could see that people are making commitments. I saw a lady with like a newborn baby who was attending one of the events, and I'm like, man, that is commitment. I saw a lady who was like 8 months pregnant at one of the masterminds I attended, and she's coming. Some people are like, I can't go, I'm pregnant. It's like, are you kidding? Like, look at this lady. What's her excuse? And people were showing up because you will find time, you will find resources for what you value. And so Ritska valued getting to know Jack Canfield, and as I was talking to her, like, what do you do? She shared she teaches leadership development and team building skills in a very interactive way, and she showed me her Instagram and how she meets with government officials and leaders of Africa, and she works with like the prime minister of her country, and she's working with a lot of government officials in her country, and she just teaches leadership development. She's like, we could work together. You've got skills I don't have, I got skills you don't have, and we could help each other. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And she shared how one of her clients is a leader that she's training for leadership development, and he works very closely with the Queen of England. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. She's like pretty excited. She's like, look at that. It's like, my client works really closely with the Queen of England, and I'm training him, and he's working with her. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. You know what, that reminds me of a concept in my book where it says 6 degrees of separation. So basically, that means that she is within 2 degrees separated from the Queen of England. And she's like, whoa. You know what that means? That means I am 3 degrees separated from the Queen of England. And then she was like, wow, you're 3 degrees away from the Queen of England. She was all excited about that. I'm like, and you're too. But, I mean, that's the power where you could see that it's like, well, there is, like, from anyone that you want to meet, it's not about who you know, it's about who you meet and how you meet them. That's why when you attend these events, like, be kind to everyone. Recognize what you do to them, you're doing to Jesus. When you listen to them, when you care about their story, when you get to know what do they do and be genuinely interested in them, you discover some amazing things, and people will open up doors to you that you can go through those doorways and get to know other people, and it might even lead you to the queen one day, or it might lead you to the category queen of your industry or the category king of an industry, and you could be a counselor of kings. You could be someone who is the go-to place in your industry, in your niche, in your topic, that people go to you for advice because that's what they're looking for. And this is a really powerful concept when you're meeting master mentors, when you're finding maybe your dream who. It just stop, like, you don't have to necessarily think, how do I meet this person? Think, instead of asking how to, ask who. Who can open the door? Who knows how to do this? And a lot of times we ask the wrong question. We're asking the question how, but the best question is who. So when you change your how into who, just rearrange some of the letters, and you'll be able to have unlimited resources, unlimited access to results and possibilities and solutions that you didn't know were ever available to you. So that's the concept that's really powerful, because someone might not have an event, but maybe their cousin is like the events organizer of like a 6,000 conference person in your niche, and they're like, you have a good experience, impression with a cousin, the cousin recommends them to their cousin, and then boom, you're now speaking before 6,000 people of your dream audience who you are uniquely equipped to serve, and they're just thrilled with what you have to offer. You never know what's going to happen. That's a 6 degrees of separation. So another big idea is that I got here is how there's one concept that I learned at one of the masterminds that I attend, and it was just going through my mind, and it's that don't go where your gifts are tolerated, go where your gifts are celebrated. And that was just going through my mind a lot, because every person that I met, they were so receptive, so interested, so eager, and everyone here is being sold the dream to be a best-selling author, and they're being taught how to do it, which is so cool. So we all have that shared common experience. But since I was a best-selling author, then I could be a friend to those who are along the way. I'm like, okay, these are the best lessons that I took away. These are the tips that I learned. This is what not to do. This is what worked, what didn't work, and they get another perspective, and they really appreciate that. And what I found is that these are the people, a lot of them are like faith-based entrepreneurs where I'm like, these are my people. It's like, I love this. They're not allergic to the Bible. They're actually excited about the Bible. I'm like, what attracted you to Nick and Megan? They're like, oh, just the faith, just the integrity, the principles, the biblical principles. I'm like, yeah, me too. I like that. And you surround yourself with people who have shared values, shared interests, and at these events, you just have that opportunity to really show up and serve. And they're all authors here. Many of them are speakers and coaches. So because of that, I'm able to help speakers, authors, coaches, and other high-level entrepreneurs. And as I'm sharing with them concepts that helps to unlock their problems and solve their problems, they're like, I had no idea how valuable this would be. It's like, you're so young, and yet you're so confident and clear. You have passion that just, like, it comes out of you. It's like you can't hold it back. I see what you do, and you're skilled in what you do, and you're excited about what you do, and I enjoy learning from you. And I heard comments like that so many times throughout the event, which I'm like, that's pretty interesting, because I've been in environments that think like, oh, you just want to like record videos. It's like, that's not really helping people. That's not really making a difference. I'm like, why would you want to surround yourself with people that just go poo-poo on your dreams, or that don't support or encourage where you're going? I was coaching an entrepreneur student of mine, and they mentioned how sometimes she started praying that God would help her to spend less time with people that were not helping her to reach the dreams and the callings that God has for her, that are not helping her to grow in the direction she believes God's calling her, and spend more time with people who do encourage and support the direction that she's going. Where, as she shared, as I started thinking about it, there's been some environments that she's in that it could be well-meaning friends or family, or people who not only don't support what she's doing in business, but they actually discourage her, laugh at her, maybe poke fun at her interests or goals. Like they're so against her dreams and ideas, not against her, but just like their belief system, the poverty, scarcity mindset, or whatever the case is has so much limiting beliefs that for her to like speak up, like she's still trying to express or feel safe to share something, but they just want to stomp on it. And it was just like, so then when she came and visited some people, it seems like she was a few steps behind on her dreams. Not only did it not progress and further, but she actually like felt like she like backslid in the direction she was being led to go. And how like if you're going through a situation where you're surrounded by people who have a lot of just people that either it would be good to disassociate with or maybe decrease your association with, then I want to encourage you that there are rooms that celebrate your gifts, and there are rooms that tolerate your gifts. Go where your gifts are celebrated, not tolerated. It will change your life for the rest of your life. And that is something that I saw at this event that was so powerful. And one of the examples is when sharing with people, they'd ask like, what do you do? This is a nugget that I took away. One of the things I teach at my implementation workshop is how you can identify what you do as something, not something that is better than like your offer is not an improvement offer, but it is a new opportunity. It's an opportunity switch. It's something different. Difference is far better than better improvement. So what that means is like instead of saying, well, I'm kind of like this but better, people don't want better. They want something entirely different. So what does that look like? When people ask you what you do, don't just tell them what you do, tell them what you don't do. And then tell them what you do. And what does that look like? So when people ask me like, hey, what do you do? I help speakers, authors, coaches, and other high-level entrepreneurs to get paid for their advice by helping them create premium mentorship programs. And people are like, oh, okay, cool. And one guy, like the question that comes up, one guy was like, how is that different than what's being taught here at the seminar, like what James Malinchuk is doing? I'm like, that's a great question. This is you know how at seminars and courses and when you finish books, you walk away with a big to-do list? They're like, yeah. Well, I teach implementation workshops where you don't walk away with a big to-do list, you walk away with a big done list. So you're actually implementing in our workshop. We're doing work. Where here at these events, you have multiple speakers and they're telling you what to do, but you're learning and there's a lot of speakers. So you've got a lot of things to do and a lot of information overwhelm. So we go to war on the information overwhelm and we just distill the most essential steps and then implement all in one workshop. We take 3 years, what would take you 3 years of effort, and we put it down into 3 days. So you walk away from our implementation workshop with your signature speech, all dialed in, your signature stories, you've got your message very clear, and you've got an infinite sales message that you could use over 3,000 times without losing its power of persuasion. And people start leaning in, or they're like, their jaw drops a little bit, they're like, oh, it's like, I need that. Or it's like, that sounds really good. Or they're seeing, it's opening their mind, like, this is powerful. And I want you to notice, in that structure, I told them first what I don't do. You know how courses and books and seminars, you leave with a big to-do list. That's not what I do. And that's a pain that they recognize. They're like, oh, yeah, I've been there. And they're going through this event, and they're like, there's a lot of things to do. It's overwhelming. When I go home, I don't even know where to start. Like, it's exciting, but it's overwhelming. And they have that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't do that to my students. I have implementation workshops that they walk away with a big done list. And they're like, ooh, I want a done list. And they're like, how could I sign up for that? And how can I learn more? And by the way, if you're interested in learning more, mentormeenoch.com. That will give you some more details how you could find out about the implementation workshops. So what I'm sharing is like, don't just tell them what you do, tell them what you don't do first. And you will notice, like I came with a friend, my friend Christopher, and he was sharing with people what he does. They're like, hey, what do you do? He's like, well, I teach people how to be profitable in their publishing. And that, and it's powerful, and how you don't just create a bunch of content. Well, he would share it, and then there's sometimes he'd share what he didn't do, and that opportunity switch. But then I was like, hey, like, can I give you one tip? And he's like, yeah, please, go ahead. It's like, share, when people ask you what you do, tell them what you don't do, and then tell them what you do. And then, so what that could look like is, say, you know how people publish like 3,000 videos and they're still not being profitable with their publishing? They're wondering, like, when is this going to pay off? How all the gurus say, like, you got to publish, you got to create content, publish your face off, like, create lots of content. And then they create this content and they're like, I'm still not profitable. What's going on? Well, I help people to publish profitably. I help people not create content. Here's a not, right? To stop creating content as a content creator and start creating content as a content marketer. That's how I help people with my profitable publishing process. And people are like, can you speak on my summit? Can you speak on my seminar? Like, can I interview you for my audience? It's like, where can I find out more about you? And people start leaning in. But here's the secret. You tell them what you don't do. It creates intrigue, curiosity, interest. It makes them, like, it makes their pain more painful, because they're like, yeah, I've been there, I've done that, I know what that's like. And you're like showing them, you're actually describing where they are now, like subconsciously, and you're like, yeah, but we're doing something different. We're not doing what you're doing and better, because what you're doing isn't working for you to the degree that they want. We are not doing what you're doing. We're doing something better. And you're positioning your offer as an opportunity switch, like you're switching vehicles. Dan Henry talks about this a lot in his marketing. And when you have a new opportunity, then people are like, yeah, let me ditch this vehicle and go over here. I want what you have. And it's a lot easier to share something different than it is to share something better. So you know you have an improvement offer when you explain, like, I help people to do something better, smarter, faster, leaner, like anything that ends with ER. If it ends with ER, it's like you're in an improvement offer, and that is like, that's a commodity that's raced to the bottom. It's not the place to be. Now that you have seen this and your eyes have been open, so this is one thing that I teach my students, and since then, I've been having some of my students come back to me and they're like, look, Ine, I've been looking at these YouTube ads, I've been seeing some of the Facebook ads, and you're right, they're all doing that. These webinar headlines, they're like, how to make money in real estate, and it's not through flipping or Airbnb, and they're saying everything that it's not, but it's not saying what it is until you join their training. And then sometimes there's an ad on YouTube. It's like, hey, it's like all these gurus are telling you to create a challenge or write a book or do this. It's like, I'm not doing any of that. And then what I'm showing, and then they show the results to their students. It's a totally different format. Why? It's an opportunity switch. So once your eyes have been open and you see how you could do this in your own content creation, your own communication, now you will have better results. People will be eager to switch opportunities to jump on board with the vehicle you're doing, but you'll be able to see in the successful ads that what is working, and you'll see many of them, a common pattern. Leaders are masters at recognizing patterns and utilizing patterns. And one of the patterns that produces prosperity when it comes to messaging is the opportunity switch. Tell them what you're not doing, and then tell them what you're doing. Or if you're leading people to opt into your training, don't tell them what you're doing. Tell them what you're not doing, and it piques curiosity, interest, mystery, and people are like, I got to find out what this, I know what it isn't, that's everything that I think it is, but then it's not none of those, so what is it? And people got to know, and they close that gap. So that's really, really powerful for you guys to do that. And which, like, some of the things I'm sharing are going to be skills for you to implement. When implemented correctly, can totally blow up your impact, your influence, and your income. But I know that some of these skills, they may seem overwhelming at first, but what I suggest is, like in my book, I have this process, how to master any skill in half the time. First step is just visualize what could you learn. And then second step is prioritize. What are the skills that you're going to commit to? What are the skills that you want to do? And I'll tell you, how many of you would like to know what skills that I'm currently working on?
Amen.
What are the high leverage skills that I'm currently prioritizing that I want to get better at?
Amen.
Okay, so some of the speaking skills that I'm currently developing is, number one, I learned about seeding offers. And I love this, where you can actually seed your offers in your content. When you're speaking to people, when you're creating videos, speaking on stage, when you're sharing an aha, when you are asking a question, whatever it is, you can constantly be seeding your offers. So instead of teaching, like I did it several times in this video, where I shared how, like instead of just saying the quote, put yourself in an environment that normalizes the achievement you desire to reach, say, well, a concept I teach in my book is put yourself in an environment that normalizes the results that you are seeking to achieve. Boom. So instead of saying the quote, mention, yeah, this is a concept I teach in my book. So now I just seeded my book. People are like, oh, he just got a book. Let me go look it up. Let me go find what that is. Or you could say, when I am coaching my entrepreneur clients, or when I'm coaching students, a framework that I teach them, a lesson I teach them is, and then the audience is saying, oh, he coaches entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. Or it's like, oh, he mentors entrepreneurs and speakers and authors. Like, oh, then maybe he could be my mentor. How do I do that? And so it's like, it's indirectly showing that you have offers that make sense. So what you want to do is you want to take your offers that you have and intertwine them in your messaging and your content. This is, again, you're not just creating content as a content creator. You're not just there to teach stuff, which you are teaching stuff, but you're there to teach things, solve problems that will actually create a greater interest in what you have to offer. Does that make sense? So you could actually slip in. So if you're a speaker, then you can seed your speaking. So when you're going live on interviews, like I was on an interview last Friday, and for this YouTube channel, and in there I say, yeah, when I speak on stages, something that I share with audiences is, and then I share the framework, then I share the concept. So what did that do? If anyone has stages, if anyone has an event, virtual live event, then they're like, oh, he speaks for virtual live events. I have a live event. I would love him to be a speaker on my event. So now they want to know more about that. You see what's going on? That's seeding your offers. There's so many ways to do it, and I'm like, when I first started, I was probably like at a 3 of comfort and ability in doing that. But now I'd say I'm probably about like an 8 as far as like the comfort or skill or that I feel that I'm doing. And the frequency, sometimes I just wouldn't think about it, but now it's becoming second nature, and that's good because I want to master that skill of seeding currently. And so that's the first skill I'm developing. The second one is creating word pictures. I realized that being able to create a snapshot in someone's mind, a photo, an illustration, an imagery, to evoke the imagination, it helps people to one, pay attention, 2, it actually moves them more emotionally, and 3, it helps them to take action on the content that you're sharing. And then 4, it rivets into the memories. It embeds into the memory and the minds of people when you share with pictures. It's a memory tip, the ultimate memory tip that I learned from Jim Quick, my memory mentor. He said, TIP, turn it into a picture. That's the ultimate memory tip. So I'm like, all right, when you're creating content, if you're an author, a coach, a speaker, then seek to create word pictures in people's minds. I'll give you an example. Instead of saying like, what I'm about to teach you is so exciting, it's going to make so much sense, it's going to be great. Say, what I'm about to share with you is going to be like firecrackers in your mind, and your brain is going to be doing jumping jacks with excitement. You see how that's different? That just created emotion. You guys laughed. And because of that, you're like, ooh, this has got to be good. You're anticipating like, what is he about to say next? And it's a word picture that really helps to do all 5 of those things that I just mentioned. So I want to be more specific. Also, certainty sells. Specifics is more influential. So talking about like what are the colors, maybe the colors of a door, or maybe the shape of the door, or like the facial expression of the person, maybe being more descriptive of the environment that the story is taking place in, so that people can actually like relive the experience with me. That is a skill that I'm seeking to develop right now, and I think it'd be very valuable for you if you want to develop this skill with me as well. Larry King is a radio personality, and he interviews people all the time, but he's dealing largely with just voice. So he says, I love voice even more than video, because with the words, when you're doing like audio, like a podcast or radio or Clubhouse or some format that is just audio, He's like, with the words, you can bring people on a visual journey in their minds through the imagery in their mind that you couldn't really do as well, or it takes a lot more energy and effort in photography and video editing with the videos. And I'm like, wow, that makes sense. Some people believe it's easier with video because I could maybe do gestures or facial expression. He's like, it's easier with audio because I have so much more opportunity with the words. I'm like, that's powerful. That's a liberating belief. Let me borrow that belief because I want to model the mindset of my mentor. And so that's something I'm developing. And then third, I'm developing book marketing. I realized book marketing is like the skill of all skills. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about my book and some of the things, because if you haven't checked it out, friends, there are reviews on Amazon that people are eating it up. They're absolutely loving it. They're like, I had no idea this would be so valuable. I actually hear that a lot, which is understandable. People are like, these are like all the life lessons, the most powerful life lessons I've learned, but it's all in one little resource. It's like, if I had that years ago, I would be in an entirely different place. So do it now, do it whether you're just getting started, whether you've been in the game for years. It's going to help you get to the next level. I promise you, there's going to be some insights in there that could be really profound. So you go to iwantamentorbook.com and you get the first 3 chapters for free. It's going to be there. We're working on a paperback, and that paperback is going to be going out, and then it'll be available at the same link. We're going to email everyone who signs up for the waiting list, and you'll get the three books, 3 first chapters there that are pretty helpful. And one quick testimony, I'm really excited about that. For those who've been following the journey, I currently have a goal to have our first 6-figure day, to take what we've otherwise been making in a year in our 6-figure family business and learn how to make that in a day, to compress that time frame. And I've got a mentor, Myron Golden, who's showing people how to have 6- and 7-figure days. I'm like, okay, so that's what the goal is. And this last month, we had our very first $40,000 day. We didn't make it it wasn't 6 figures in a day, but it was $40,000 in a day, which is amazing, because sometimes you make that in a few months, or sometimes people are making that in an entire year, and they're like, well, that's a good salary at my job. But we were able to do that in a day, helping coaches, authors, and speakers to be able to craft their message and get really clear on what they're doing and who they're serving. And I'm like, wow, that's really powerful how these things work. So if you want to know how you can increase your impact, to expand your influence and multiply your income, then we have a implementation workshop that's coming up very soon. And in this, you're going to get really clear on your messaging, your sales message. You're going to be able to speak in a way that draws people, that makes them want to say yes to your products and services and what you have to offer. And we're going to be following, as I mentioned, some of the principles here. Russell Brunson's been responsible for, he's really a millionaire maker. ClickFunnels community has given away almost 1,000 2 Comma Club awards of people who have made over $1 million as a result of using their software and their community and education. And this book is a large portion of the success that they've had. And so in these principles, a lot of times people read the book, they read the principles, they take courses, or they attend seminars, and they're like stuck and frustrated, like, oh, what do I do? How do I apply this? There's so much information, it gets overwhelming. If you want to declutter that, and if you just want to like compress years of trial and error and all that stuff on your own, and just do it in a few days, so just one and done, and do it with people who've already been there, done that, has got those results, got really clear on creating those assets in your business, then I encourage you to sign up for our upcoming implementation workshop. You can find out more about that at mentormeenoch.com. In that, you can sign up for a clarity call, mentormeenoch.com, and in that clarity call, I'll be able to talk to you about your goals, your business, where you're at, what your next step is. I'd be happy to see what we could do to help you to get from where you are to where you want to be, and give you the clarity to make the difference. So thank you so much for watching. I pray this would be helpful for you when you're attending events, some principles that you can apply. And if you like the video, then I encourage you to share it with other people. Let them know that they can come to this. I'm doing it every week, and I'm super excited to show up for each of you and share some of the greatest tips and new developments and things that are coming forward. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great day, friends. And remember, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called.